Kids arrested for prostitution. Florida passed a law years ago to stop those arrests and instead focus on helping child victims. But I-Team investigator Kylie McGivern uncovered how it's still happening right here in the Bay Area, and she joins us now in studio. And Kylie, you were just telling me really what this piece focuses on, this law and also this victim that you're speaking to. That's an incredibly powerful story.
Absolutely. So the woman that we spoke with, she was first trafficked for sex here in the Tampa Bay area at 16, and she said she's like, at least that's the first time that I remember. She's now in her 30s and was in that life for years. And then on the side that we're talking about too, with, kids charged with prostitution, there are still 20 states where that is allowed. It shouldn't be happening in Tampa, but we have found some law enforcement agencies aren't even aware that that shouldn't be happening. And we spoke with somebody from a local nonprofit.
It's shameful. How can you arrest a child for prostitution? I mean, just let that sit with somebody for a moment. A child being arrested for prostitution doesn't make any sense. So a 10-year-old or 12-year-old child, regardless of age really, is getting raped repeatedly. They see a law enforcement officer that they think is there to help them, and they're there to arrest them. I mean, what kind of message does that send to that child?
Wow, when you hear it like that, that's incredibly messed up, frankly. So what steps are happening right now to really let law enforcement know to change that?
Well, we saw that most law enforcement is aware because we looked at the numbers to see, all right, how many kids have been arrested for prostitution since that law was passed. And we looked, and some under the age of 18 were charged with soliciting for prostitution, so trying to buy sex. And then we saw an incident in one of our local counties where it was a girl who had accepted money, according to this report, for a sex act. These are middle schoolers, and there was an idea that, okay, these kids need to be held accountable, they need to be punished, but when we brought that to local nonprofits like Natasha, who you just heard from, she's like, this shouldn't be happening at all, not just as a matter of opinion, but under Florida's law. So it's something that we have found there's a disconnect in terms of some law enforcement even being aware of how you should be treating these kids. I mean, again, kids, they're not even 18 years old yet.
Wow. Okay, and so let's back up to the woman's story who you're telling tonight. How did she first get involved in this? Where did her story begin?
So she was first, these stories, it's like the worst of the worst. Two of her family members, she tells us, started sexually abusing her when she was 3 years old. And we have found that a lot of the victims that end up lured into trafficking, a lot of them do have a history of sexual abuse as a child. Before then, they are abused more in a trafficking situation. So she ran away at 12 years old, and she met the person who would become her trafficker at 13. She actually ended up marrying this person, she tells us, and got pulled in by basically the love that she was lacking at home. Here's what she told us.
And I was born right here. It happens in our own backyard and everywhere.
When was the first time that you were sold for sex?
16 was the earliest I remember.
What went through your mind at that time, the first time that happened?
Daddy tells me he loves me, that I'm doing this out of honor because I love him, so he must love me. And I just thought I was trying to help provide.
How is she doing now, mentally?
The good news is she's doing incredible. And the fact that she's even able to tell her story in that way is so beyond powerful. So the way that she got out of that life is she was actually arrested for prostitution during a sting. Now, she was not a child at the time, but it was during that sting operation in Bradenton that a judge, she tells us, recognized this is somebody that needs help, connected her with a nonprofit in Sarasota called Selah Freedom Organization. And within that, she was able to get therapy, rehabilitation, and now she is helping other women who are victims become survivors. So this is very much now her life work is sharing her story and showing people that there is hope. She had a child with each of her 2 traffickers. She now has sole custody of her children. And one thing that she wanted people to know is this idea that whether it is a child, whether it is an adult, you know, when you think of somebody that is a prostitute, this is not always someone that is out there willingly, and that we should be looking more at what is behind these situations and how they could be forced into this situation.
All right, Kylie, thank you so much. And your full story is coming up tonight at 11.
Yeah, thank you.